Volvo Cars announces major workforce reduction, 3,000 job cuts amid industry turmoil. Volvo Cars has unveiled a significant restructuring plan involving the elimination of 3,000 positions, representing approximately 15% of its global office-based workforce, as the Swedish automaker grapples with mounting financial pressures and unprecedented challenges in the automotive sector. The layoffs, announced in late May 2025, primarily target administrative and white-collar roles across departments including human resources, research and development, and communications, with the majority of cuts concentrated in Sweden, where the company maintains its headquarters in Gothenburg. This workforce reduction forms part of a broader cost-cutting initiative worth 18 billion Swedish kroner, $1.9 billion, reflecting the company's urgent need to improve cash flow generation and build structural resilience amid declining electric vehicle demand, trade conflicts, and global economic uncertainty. Scope and distribution of job cuts. The restructuring plan targets specific categories of employees across Volvo Cars' global operations, with a clear emphasis on reducing administrative overhead rather than manufacturing capabilities. Approximately 1,200 positions will be eliminated in Sweden, representing the largest portion of the cuts and affecting roughly 15% of the company's office-based workforce in its home market. The Swedish operations, centered around Volvo's Gothenburg headquarters, house the company's primary product development facilities and administrative functions, making them the natural focus for efficiency improvements in non-production areas. Beyond the direct employee layoffs, Volvo Cars plans to terminate approximately 1,000 positions currently filled by external consultants, with the majority of these contractor roles also based in Sweden. This dual approach to workforce reduction allows the company to maintain greater flexibility while achieving immediate cost savings. The remaining job cuts will be distributed across Volvo's international operations, including facilities in Belgium, South Carolina, and China, though specific numbers for each location have not been disclosed. The targeted departments reveal the company's strategic priorities during this restructuring phase. Human resources, research and development, and communications departments are expected to face significant reductions, with CEO Håkan Samuelsson describing the cuts as affecting white-collar in almost all areas. This approach suggests that Volvo is preserving its core manufacturing and engineering capabilities while streamlining support functions to create what the company terms a leaner, more efficient organization with a structurally lower cost base. Financial context and cost reduction strategy. Volvo Cars' workforce reduction represents just one component of an ambitious financial restructuring program designed to address deteriorating operational performance and market conditions. The company's operating income, excluding joint ventures and associates, dropped by over 70% during the first quarter of 2025, prompting management to implement the comprehensive 18 billion Swedish kroner, $1.9 billion cost-cutting initiative. This dramatic decline in profitability has forced the company to suspend its financial guidance for 2025 and 2026, citing an uncertain operating environment that makes reliable forecasting impossible. The cost reduction strategy extends beyond personnel cuts to encompass multiple operational areas. The plan includes 3 billion Swedish kroner in variable cost reductions and 5 billion kroner in indirect spending efficiencies, while an additional 10 billion kroner in cash flow improvements are targeted through reduced working capital and capital expenditures in 2025 and 2026. This comprehensive approach reflects the severity of the challenges facing Volvo Cars and the management's recognition that structural changes are necessary rather than temporary adjustments. Earlier workforce reductions had already begun implementation before the major announcement, with Volvo laying off up to 800 workers at 3 U.S. facilities in April 2025, citing ongoing market uncertainty. These preliminary cuts served as a precursor to the larger restructuring program and demonstrated management's willingness to make difficult decisions across all geographic markets. The staged approach to workforce reduction also suggests that the company has been carefully analyzing its operational needs and identifying areas where efficiency improvements can be achieved without compromising core business functions. Leadership changes and strategic direction. The announcement of major job cuts coincides with significant leadership changes at Volvo Cars, most notably the return of Håkan Samuelsson as CEO in April 2025, replacing Jim Rowan, who had led the company through recent years. Samuelsson, who previously served as CEO for a decade ending in 2022, brings institutional knowledge and experience navigating challenging market conditions, positioning him to guide the company through this critical restructuring period. His return to leadership suggests that the board of directors sought experienced management capable of implementing difficult but necessary operational changes. Samuelson has articulated a clear strategic vision focusing on three key areas: profitability, electrification, and regionalization. This strategic framework acknowledges the complex challenges facing the automotive industry while providing a roadmap for sustainable growth. The emphasis on regionalization particularly reflects lessons learned from recent trade conflicts, as the company seeks to produce vehicles closer to their end markets to reduce exposure to tariff risks and transportation costs. The CEO has characterized the current period as an extremely challenging period, unlike anything we've seen before in the automotive industry, providing context for the aggressive cost-cutting measures. His assessment that the restructuring will be very healthy and will save us money and give space for people to take on bigger responsibilities suggests a belief that the organization has become overly complex and bureaucratic. Chief Financial Officer Frederick Hansen has reinforced this message, stating that no stone is left unturned in the effort to create structural efficiency improvements. Industry challenges and market pressures. Volvo Cars faces a convergence of industry-wide challenges that have necessitated dramatic restructuring measures, with declining demand for electric vehicles representing a particularly significant concern for a company that had committed to full electrification by 2030. The automaker revised this ambitious timeline in 2024, citing challenging market circumstances including inadequate charging infrastructure and decreased government incentives that have dampened consumer enthusiasm for electric vehicles. This strategic pivot reflects broader industry recognition that the transition to electrification may proceed more gradually than initially anticipated. Trade tensions, particularly with the United States, have created additional pressure on Volvo Cars' business model. The company faces the threat of 50% tariffs on imports from the European Union, which President Trump had initially planned to implement but subsequently postponed until July 2025. Given that Volvo produces the majority of its vehicles in Europe and China, these potential tariffs represent an existential threat to the company's ability to compete in the crucial American market. The geographic distribution of Volvo's manufacturing facilities makes it particularly vulnerable to trade disputes compared to automakers with more diversified production footprints. Rising raw material costs and a generally declining European car market have further compressed profit margins across the automotive sector. These macroeconomic pressures have been compounded by increased competition from Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers, who have recently announced aggressive price reductions across multiple model lines. Companies like BYD, Leapmotor, and Changjiang have all disclosed plans to lower prices, creating additional pressure on established automakers like Volvo to maintain market share while preserving profitability. Broader automotive industry context. Volvo Cars' workforce reduction occurs within a broader pattern of automotive industry restructuring, as established manufacturers struggle to adapt to rapidly changing market conditions and technological transitions. Nissan has announced even more dramatic cuts, eliminating 20,000 positions over the past year and closing 7 factories as part of comprehensive restructuring efforts, driven by declining sales in key markets. The Japanese automakers' challenges in the U.S. market, where aggressive discounting has eroded profitability, and in China, where local competitors have gained market share, illustrate the global nature of current industry pressures. The collapse of a proposed merger between Nissan, Mitsubishi, and Honda, which would have created a Japanese auto supergroup, demonstrates the difficulty of finding strategic solutions to current market challenges. Industry consolidation efforts have been hampered by disagreements over alliance structures and control mechanisms, leaving individual companies to address competitive pressures independently rather than through collaborative approaches. Chinese automotive manufacturers have emerged as particularly formidable competitors, leveraging lower production costs and government support to gain market share in both domestic and international markets. The intensification of price competition among Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers reflects their growing confidence and capacity to challenge established Western and Japanese automakers. This competitive dynamic has forced companies like Volvo, despite Chinese ownership through Geely, to implement aggressive cost reduction measures to maintain competitive positioning. Company structure and ownership implications. Volvo Cars' ownership structure adds complexity to its current restructuring efforts, as the company operates under Chinese ownership through Geely, while maintaining its Swedish operational headquarters and brand identity. This international ownership arrangement provides certain strategic advantages, including access to Chinese manufacturing capabilities and markets, but also creates potential vulnerabilities related to trade tensions and regulatory scrutiny. The company's manufacturing footprint spans Belgium, South Carolina, and China, requiring careful navigation of multiple regulatory environments and trade relationships. The geographic distribution of Volvo's operations has become both an asset and a liability in the current environment. While production facilities in China provide access to the world's largest automotive market and cost-competitive manufacturing, they also expose the company to tariff risks when exporting to Western markets. The South Carolina facility provides a manufacturing presence in the United States, but its limited capacity relative to Volvo's European and Chinese operations means the company remains heavily dependent on imports to serve the American market. Geely's ownership has provided Volvo Cars with financial stability and strategic support during previous challenging periods, but the current restructuring suggests that even this backing cannot shield the company from fundamental industry pressures. The decision to implement such significant workforce reductions indicates that management believes structural changes are necessary regardless of ownership support, reflecting the severity of current market conditions and the need for sustainable operational improvements. Market response and future outlook. Financial markets have responded positively to Volvo Cars' restructuring announcement, with share prices rising 3.7% following the job cut disclosure, suggesting investor confidence in the company's willingness to take decisive action. However, this short-term gain must be viewed in the context of the stock's 24% decline year to date, indicating that significant challenges remain in restoring long-term investor confidence. The market's reaction suggests that investors view cost-cutting measures as necessary steps toward financial stability, even while recognizing the difficult operating environment facing the automotive industry. The company's decision to suspend financial guidance for 2025 and 2026 reflects the unprecedented uncertainty characterizing current market conditions. This withdrawal of forward-looking statements indicates that management believes traditional forecasting methods are inadequate given the volatility in trade policies, consumer demand patterns, and competitive dynamics. The absence of clear financial targets may complicate investor assessment of the company's progress, but it also provides management with greater flexibility to adapt to changing conditions. Volvo Cars' strategic focus on regionalization may provide a pathway to greater stability by reducing exposure to trade conflicts and transportation costs. The company's stated intention to produce vehicles closer to where they are sold represents a fundamental shift from the globalized production model that has characterized the automotive industry for decades. This regionalization strategy, while requiring significant capital investment and operational restructuring, could position Volvo for more sustainable growth in an increasingly fragmented global trade environment. Conclusion: Volvo Cars' decision to eliminate 3,000 positions represents a watershed moment for the Swedish automaker as it confronts unprecedented challenges in the global automotive industry. The comprehensive restructuring program, encompassing $1.9 billion in cost reductions and fundamental organizational changes, reflects management's recognition that incremental adjustments are insufficient to address current market realities. The focus on white-collar positions and administrative functions suggests an attempt to preserve core operational capabilities while creating a more agile organizational structure capable of responding to rapid market changes. The convergence of declining electric vehicle demand, escalating trade tensions, and intensifying global competition has created a perfect storm, requiring dramatic corporate responses across the automotive sector. Volvo's experience illustrates the particular vulnerability of European automakers with limited manufacturing presence in key markets, highlighting the strategic importance of geographic diversification and regional production capabilities. The company's Chinese ownership through Geely provides certain advantages but cannot insulate it from fundamental industry pressures affecting all market participants. Looking forward, Volvo Cars' ability to successfully navigate this restructuring period will depend on its capacity to maintain product development capabilities while achieving sustainable cost reductions. The company's strategic emphasis on profitability, electrification, and regionalization provides a framework for future decision-making, but execution will be critical in determining whether these workforce reductions contribute to long-term competitiveness or merely represent a temporary response to immediate pressures. The automotive industry's ongoing transformation suggests that companies like Volvo must be prepared for continued adaptation and structural change as new technologies, market dynamics, and competitive pressures reshape the global automotive landscape. Thank you for watching. Leave comment. What you think about automotive industry these days. See you later.